Saxapahaw General Store, and these eggs were raised by hens right across the street from the store. There's a flock of 800 laying hens, and they're a mix of heritage breeds, and they eat some pretty special feed made by Reedy Fork Organic Farm in Elon. We helped Reedy Fork develop this feed about 5 years ago because we wanted to feed our hens non-GMO, non-extruded, amalgamated, non-food. We wanted to feed them real food. So the feed that they eat is very, very different than conventional feedstuffs, even feedstuffs that are fed to most pastured livestock. In that the soybeans, for example, are whole organic roasted soybeans. And so a giant truck comes to the Reedy Fork a couple times a month, and they toast all the soybeans. And the soybeans in regular feed are very, very different. It's genetically modified Roundup Ready soy that is then extracted with hexane, which is an industrial solvent. And what's left, and the high-end oil is sold to the tofu and soy milk. And what's left is soybean meal, which is a really high-protein concentrate that animals get fat on. They produce meat, milk, and eggs on it very quickly, but it's not food. And so one of the things that was really important to us was that our animals eat real food. So all the animals on the farm eat a species-appropriate diet. That means the cows and the sheep eat grass and forbs and legumes. It means the dogs eat meat. It means the pigs eat this same similar feed, and they eat grass and grubs. And the chickens eat crickets and earthworms and fly larvae and this amazing feed that we get from Reedy Fork Farm. So this is our Eggmobile, a la Joel Salatin and Polyface Farms in Virginia. This is his concept. So this is a portable house that houses about 350 laying hens. The only thing they do in this house is roost, which is sleep at night, lay their eggs, and eat. The rest of the day, that's where their feed is. The rest of the day, they're out foraging for bugs, eating grasses, legumes, and their primary job on this farm is, believe it or not to lay eggs, but to keep flies off the cows. And they do that because a hen has this enormous ability, it seems, to perceive when the fly larvae and the cow pies are matriculated just to the right point that they're delicious little worms to eat. And that is a wonderful, wonderful food for a laying hen. It's a live animal protein. It makes their eggs extremely nutritious. And the benefit of that is that the cows don't have flies, and we don't have to use any insecticides, grubicides, or wormicides, or any death potions on the cows in order to keep them free of parasites, because the hens take this intact cow pie and they come up, and we move them on about a 3-day rotation after. So where we're standing right now, the cows were about 3 days ago, and we bring them up here and they see this cow pie and they're excited and they race to get it to it, and they scratch their feet, and that cow pie gets spread all over the place. They eat all the worms, and the benefit to the soil is that this really large plop of fertilizer, which the cows would avoid the next time they came to this grazing spot in the rotation, they would avoid that spot because the grass around it would be over-fertilized and rank. And they also know to avoid their own feces because of parasites. So what the hens do is they take this blob and they spread it way out, which the earthworms and the microorganisms in the soil are able to metabolize much, much quicker. And so the next time the cows come back to this spot, there's no areas that the cows will avoid, and it's all much more evenly fertilized. And so it's a beautiful symbiotic system. And in the process, they produce some pretty magnificent eggs. And so in addition to the grubs and the forbs and other things they eat, they also eat feed from Reedy Fork Organic Farm in Elon. It's a locally milled organic feed, and it's got real food in it, no GMOs. It's got all sorts of really awesome minerals and probiotics and kelp and nutritional yeast and all. I mean, like, this is real good stuff. Like, this is stuff you would buy at a health food store to put in your own orange juice in order to, give yourself a boost. That's what these hens eat every day, and it really shows in the quality of their yolks and the integrity of their yolks. And the nutrition punch in each one of these eggs is unbelievable, and that's because they eat a diet that's totally appropriate to their species, and is also full of all sorts of live things. The chlorophyll from the grass gets translated into the egg yolks. It's pretty magic food. No, they're Berkshire Duroc crosses, the Scotches. And that is a heritage, those are both heritage breed of hogs. You can see what partly phenotypically with the way their body looks that makes them a heritage breed, and see how round their backs are. You know the expression eating high on the hog? Yeah. That refers to the pork chops. That's the very best cut of meat on a pork is at the top of their back. And so when you say you're eating high on the hog, you're literally eating the highest point on the hog. And that's important to a farmer like me because in order to make all of this work, I need to be able to sell the whole animal. So it means that people have to reacquaint themselves with their crock pots and Dutch ovens again and learn how to braise shanks and make other cuts of meat, because not every cut on a pig is pork chops and bacon. There's other stuff out there too. And so often one of the best ways to support local farms is to buy the cuts that you wouldn't normally buy and learn how to cook them. There's a wonderful, wonderful book called All About Braising by Molly Stevens that has just fabulous recipes on cooking a lot of these kind of cuts that aren't so common, that you don't necessarily see on cooking television shows, but they have the most flavor. And the parts of the animal that are used the most are the most nutritious as well. And they have a lot of gelatin in them, and they have, you know, if you're cooking with the bones, you're getting all their mineralization from the bones into a stock or into a braise, and all that stuff is really, really good for your joints. The old cure, you know, one of the old remedies that people had when they had arthritic hands was to eat chicken stock, and you can also eat pork stock and beef stock, and that gelatin is extremely important for the lubrication of our joints. So anyways, it's really, really crucial if we're going to come back to wholeness in our farms and our kitchens and our lives, that we learn to appreciate the whole animal from, you know, from snout to tail. These pigs eat a locally milled organic feed in addition to their diet of grass, and they love, it's pretty dry right now, but they love to, when it rains a little bit and the ground is a little more easy for them to work, they love to turn this grass over just like a rototiller would. They have little shovels at the end of their nose. There's a plow built right in there, and they'll till your garden up for you real nice. So they're all muddy because they love to lay in the mud, especially when they get hot. They don't sweat, so one of their favorite ways to cool off is to go lay in a big wallow, a big wet pig mud pile, and that is a pig heaven right there. And so they spend their days out under here, under this portable shade structure, and we move them every time they eat a ton of feed. We move them to a new half acre or more of grass, and that allows them fresh access to grass, a clean place to lay down, and it also allows the area where they were to fully regenerate. So where they're standing right now won't have hogs again on it for probably 6 months. We really let it redevelop, and in the process there's so much fertility that comes from that. If you leave them on a spot for too long, they will really destroy the soil integrity, and that soil doesn't repair for dozens and dozens, if not 100 years. So hogs are something we like to manage really well because they can be incredibly, incredibly potent fertility activators, but they also can be really destructive on the soil. So we're really careful in how we manage their very, very formidable noses.